All right, let me start with a quote, and I love quotes because, like the proverb, quotes are, you know, as we say, the palm kernel or the kernel with which we drive home the messages, of course, within the African context. So I like to start with this very interesting quote, one of my favorites. You can take a person out of Stone Age, but you can't take the Stone Age out of him. Now, despite extreme weather condition and the vicissitude of their time, our ancestors from the Stone Age still hunt and gathered food for their survival. Now, in the early ages, man did not have to fight over property, if you know what I mean. His only preoccupation at the time was how to survive. And that, of course, meant he's looking for what to eat. That's food. Now, with evolution and technology, that may have been modified, or our approach to life and living may have been modified. But one thing is certain, man still hunts for food. And when his source of livelihood is threatened by whatever, societal equilibrium is equally threatened. Now, this is exactly what the corona pandemic has done to the world. The lockdown and other preventive measures have in no small way whittled down people's capacity to earn their livelihood, feed their families, and meet other social responsibilities. The pandemic has equally affected several categories of persons. Many Nigerians have their source of livelihood disrupted. Workers in the informal sector who have been prevented from moving around to carry out their businesses equally affected. Daily income earners like the artisans, barbers, hairdressers, mechanics, vulcanizers, food vendors, many more indigent people will not be able to fend for themselves and their families with the increase in the prices of food, and that's if the situation sustains. Now, the federal government is implementing measures it hopes would cushion the effect of this COVID-19 pandemic. Cash and food rations are being distributed to families believed to be in vulnerable conditions. Fiscal monetary measures are also extended to small and daily income business owners, that at the federal level. The same plan is being replicated at the subnational level. But implementation of these palliatives and stimulus packages have come not without criticisms about basically the eligibility process, content quality, exclusion or marginalization of a section of people who are believed to be or should be the beneficiaries. And the criticisms are mind-boggling. Indeed, it is a vicious cycle of poverty that the COVID-19 has generated for world economies, and concerns are that it could trap the people unless all of these palliative interventions that I've mentioned are implemented in a transparent and accountable manner. So this week, as we end the second phase of the lockdown and all the stringent measures to preventive measures, Late Edition zooms in onto the palliatives distribution, especially here in the FCT. How has it gone? What are the issues? I am Claire Adelabu Abdul Rusak. Thank you for joining me. My first guest is a familiar face. She's making her second debut on this program. And I mean, the reasons are obvious. Dr. Ramatu Tijani Aliyu is an urban planner, an astute politician. She has BSc in urban and regional planning. She holds a master's degree in public administration and is currently, of course, undergoing a PhD program. Now, on account of her leadership skills, she was conferred with an honorary degree by the Commonwealth University in London. Now, Dr. Ramatu Tijani Aliyu is also a banker and a philanthropist. And she founded an NGO that advocates women and youth empowerment and was at the time the managing director of a private civil engineering firm. So she also has some skills in that area. But in 2004, Ramatu was appointed Special Advisor on Women Affairs, Youth and Social Development at the Gwagwalada Area Council of the FCT. Now, she ran for the office of the Kwali Abuja Federal Constituency in the National Assembly sometime in 2007, but a year later in 2008, she was appointed Vice National Chairman of her party. She was appointed the National Woman Leader of the Nigeria People's Party, but later All Progressives Congress Party, and of course, other political parties, when other political parties merged in 2014, and she served till 2018. She's currently the Minister of State for the FCT. Now, I have someone that is debuting for the first time on Late Edition this week, and that's because of the very critical role he's playing in the preventive measures of COVID-19. Professor Mohammed Isa is the chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau. He is a professor of law and holds a PhD in law from the Usman Dan Fodio University, Sokoto, where he also obtained his Bachelor of Law degree. Professor Isa has skills in law of financial crime, international law of banking and finance, industrial and intellectual property law, international natural resources law, Nigerian law, as well as Nigerian legal system. He was appointed chairman CCB, that is the Code of Conduct Bureau, in 2018, and that's a position he is still holding. He was professor of law, head department of public law, that's the Bayero University, Kano. In 2017, he was an associate professor, head department of public law in the same university. He is a member of many professional associations, including these very critical ones: Chairman, Governing Council, Jigawa State College of Islamic and Legal Studies, and is also member ICPC Consultative Advisory Committee for the Northwest Geopolitical Zone. Once again, I'd like you to join me as I welcome to Late Edition, first the Honorable Minister of State for FCT, Dr. Ramatu Tijani Aliyu. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining me once again.
Thank you.
And let me also welcome for the first time Professor Mohammed Isa, Chairman, Code of Conduct Bureau. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
So, our conversation is just a simple one, but just looking at so far how far with all the monitoring and oversighting the huge responsibility bestowed on our political leaders with regards to preventive relief measures for affected Nigerians. Let me begin with the Honorable Minister. Sometimes it becomes difficult, people want to know why really palliatives, relief items should be given to some section of Nigerians. What have you found out?
Well, thank you very much, Claire, and good morning. Maybe if I hadn't been, directly involved in this exercise, I might be thinking so. But having gone down the trenches, encountered the people, I now realize how very thoughtful the government is. Honestly speaking, if you go down these areas and you see, if you are to qualify them as vulnerable or very, very vulnerable. Out there are Nigerians, honestly, who do not even know the existence of another world like you have out here. They are there in the trenches. All they know is just to feed from hands to mouth, whatever it is they're able to get. Now that they cannot come out, now that their source of livelihood is just, cut, particularly the old ones again that are sitting at home waiting to be fed by the younger ones. As much as we would like to say it, the very, very vulnerable, as I have been addressing and the FCT administration has been looking out for throughout this exercise, even transcends beyond, you know, the people we see on the street and in the suburbs. They are very, very much into the trenches and they qualify. To me, palliative or government support to cushion the effect not only of the sit-at-home order as mandated by President due to the scourge of COVID-19. We might begin to look at, you know, so many other ways we'll be able to, maybe by statistics or by whatever it is, we'll go back to the drawing board to see how we'll get to them, because they are classes of people without even the BVM. They don't know the existence of any bank, and yet they are Nigerians.
So what do you think would likely happen if there was no palliative for this masses of people?
I can't even imagine it. Do you know in some places some would break up as little as we will see 5 kg of rice. You need to see the old people crying, holding their bags, appreciating government and wondering, honestly speaking, I don't know what, maybe there will be more deaths as a result of the hunger scourge than even the coronavirus itself.
Professor Issa, you know, did make some body movement when I asked that question, and I'm sure that it's not strange to you that people are even saying that if we're not careful, you know, hunger virus will probably kill more Nigerians than the COVID-19. What are your experience so far? Before I even ask what the committee is all about.
You see, from my own background, I'm from the grassroots. And from the...
How do you mean the grassroots?
Grassroots, I mean the people that are attached to the ground, the mass, those that have not. From my own background, I'm from that society. Okay. I believe even before this crisis, a lot of people are in desperate need for support because of some economic hardship. You know, sometimes situation force or compel certain economic situations sometimes compel people to find themselves in a very critical condition that may lead them to a situation of an abject poverty. So for these reasons, you find out that abruptly a situation arises which requests that everybody should stay at home. And as the Honorable Minister said, that, you know, if she had not been able to go down the trenches and see what people are experiencing, she wouldn't have at least think of the situation that the need for support at this material time is overwhelming. Yes.
Thank you. Now, I don't want us to go over repeating what is in the Constitution. That's with regards to the setting up of the CCB monitoring, you know, committee on the PTF. Now, beyond exercising the letter of the law, which is why the committee was set up, was there really a need for the CCB to look into this exercise?
There is need indeed. CCB, even though you try to restrict us from going into the letters of the Constitution, but we cannot explain ourselves without touching the aspect of monitoring.
What did you see? Guys, with just looking at, you know, the exercise, what did you see? Were there any reports that triggered your activating, you know, the section of the Constitution that mandates you to carry out this exercise?
The CCB generally police public officers. And when it comes to palliatives or any support out of COVID-19 crisis, you find out that it is the public officers that govern it or administer it. So CCB comes out, one, to ensure that there is no abuse of powers or abuse of office. There is no, in the process of abuse of powers or abuse of office, the issue of bribery may come in, particularly when it comes to distribution of palliatives or any other support government is out to give. Then there may be activities or conducts that may be directed towards attracting personal gain. And there may be also use of excessive force, which may jeopardize the human rights of citizens. So CCB comes in at least to ensure that the public officers that are shouldered with the responsibility of, one, enforcing the lockdown, two, extending support or palliatives to the vulnerables and poor, did not get themselves into abuse of power. And this is one of the primary functions of the CCB. So where this kind of situations occur, CCB now comes in to get in touch with the authorities of a particular institution where such abuse of power is encountered. And the authorities will be advised on how to take care of the situation. Then they go ahead and see what they can do and rectify the anomaly.
So you kind of provide an oversight on what the PTF, that's the task force, is doing. Is that what you do?
Yes, so to say.
You oversight the activities?
We oversight the activities, but not oversight in the sense of interfering with the operations or disrupting the operations. Our oversight is to make sure that the laid down guidelines or regulations as for operations are followed religiously by the public officers.
That is where there are regulations, where there is an existing regulations. In a normal situation, of course, you will have regulations to doing things. But in an abnormal situations, things just, that's why they are called emergencies. I'll come back to you to find out how you actually carry out this, oversight. Like, what is the committee, the constitution of the committee, who are your members, and how you go about your duties. Let me return to the Honorable Minister. This is a very, very, very huge task for you. Like I said, in an emergency situation, palliative distribution is a matter of transparency and accountability. We've heard reports of giving Peter what is meant for Paul, and vice versa, robbing Paul of even what he had altogether. What has been your candid experience so far? Your candid experience. You've been in the middle of this palliative distribution. Share with us. What are your headaches? What are the headaches there?
Thank you very much, Claire. But with all the structures we put in place so far in the Federal Capital Territory administration, the challenges now boil down to the recipients themselves. Recipients being those that have been served, the palliatives. But I'll come to that. But as it is with the Federal Capital Territory administration, when I sat as the chairperson of the Palliative Distribution Committee, and I realized definitely the fundamental, issue is the accountability. Is the readiness to serve. Is the diligence. So first of all, I insisted that we engage the Code of Conduct Bureau directly. Because in decision...
Okay, you insisted?
Yes.
To engage the Code of Conduct Bureau?
Yes. And we have their men across to the latter level of implementation. And they've been so wonderful and amazing because they work 24/7 with us. Because I can also not be everywhere. Again, when you are faced with making a decision on behalf of people, and you just said something, no clear rules laid, because this is an emergency situation, it's an anomaly. We've never found this before. Then you are left to use the discretion as to what you must serve. But then will come accountability after. If you want to make it your watchword, if you want to be frank about it, people will engage. We even now called for the ICPC to join, so that they be the eyes of the government in the place. They also call to account some of the practices if they find it, find themselves not comfortable somewhere. And they are also insisting on the check and balances in the trenches, where I happen not to be there. So being the eye of the government, not only on oversight function, but also instills, or pricks the consciences of the officers also serving these palliatives to ensure that they do the right thing.
All right, Honorable Minister, let me pause you for a while. Chairman, I'll pause you for a while. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue with our conversation.
Now, believe this, Koroti. You know, if you touch black man, if you like, gather the whole Niger, come together, make the cough. Nothing.
Which one you want?
Give me V&D.
I beg, get small pieces.
How much you want to give him?
Give me 200. Take your change now. You know what your change is?
My people, this coronavirus, na serious matter. May una wash una hands regularly. Come use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. If you no see water, wash your hand. Make una sit down for house. You see this virus, so e no get leg. Now we dey waka kurukere. No waka around, make the virus for die. No forget, say, the betterment of our people. Now for your handy day.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Okay, Honorable Minister, I asked for your candid experience, just before we took the short break. In the distribution of the palliatives, as not just as a minister, as a government official, but as a woman, as a mother, share, are there moments that touched you, emotional moments for you?
Wow, Claire. There are emotional moments again and again and again. Encountering one old woman, blind, not even with any other person with her. The chairman held her out in Abuja, down in the village of Nuku. And she was shaking all through, like she struck a gold mine, receiving just the 5 kg of rice and this condiment. She prayed incessantly with tears. You could imagine just that. We've seen so many like that. There is a family, the woman just had a baby, and there is the husband, all trapped, in a place they can't even go out. For the fear of the corona, they are adhering strictly. But in the home, nothing in the pot with their little baby. This 5 kg and the condiment was an Igbo lady, but she started weeping. Receive. All these are on videos. One day.
How many households did you target, and how many were you able to reach within this period of time? I know you're almost done with the exercise in the FCT.
Yeah, we are targeting 600,000 houses of the vulnerable families. So far, so good. We've been able to reach about 200,000, and I'll give you the breakdown. It's in phases. So the 200,000 now being 25,000 households in Kwali, the same in Kuji, the same in Abaji, the same in Gwakwalada. Now the Amak, being, a more cosmopolitan area, you have so many other vulnerably classified without homes. Those are there to be served. And then you have the homes again down into the Kabusa and the very large Gwarimpa that is about, that is classified the largest, estate in West Africa at the moment. Now down into the Gishiri side, and so many. It's so large that we have to increase the quantity. And we are still on increasing the quantity. As we speak, we have to break Amak into 4. To be 4 components to take it clearly. Gwarimpa standing on its own. And even yesterday alone was not enough to conclude Gwarimpa. Then we added the 5th component now being the Mabushi. The Mabushi happens to also be the epicenter now of the pandemic spread in the Federal Capital Territory. So there now they had to go in mass with their, PPEs ready and to serve the people, observing serious social distancing.
Who exactly? Because when we say vulnerable, we've been using the word vulnerable a lot of, with regards to this emergency. So many Nigerians now have become vulnerable. Even those who had daily source of income are now vulnerable. But who were your priority targets? And the rations that you distributed, how long did you expect those rations to last for them?
Our priority target were those that classically got identified by the index used by their own community, because it's a community-owned program. But now the targets are those identified to feed from hand to mouth. Being in the city, are they security people? Are they cleaners? And down into the trenches. Then those that cannot even be assessed at all easily. Those that have to trek kilometers out to, say they are coming into the market. Then definitely you have some other communities that are underserved totally, of whatever it is government have been providing. Those ones we have found out. And then the beggar columnists. We have the beggar columnists, we have the leper columnists, we have the, people living with disabilities, we have the orphanages. All these are also targets. Now we are looking even beyond that. There are a group of people again that we discovered in the entire chart of the area councils they brought. We realized they've been cut out. Those are the Fulanis in the Rugas that must also have to come out to sell the nono to feed, now cannot move out, and yet they are not served.
Do you think that the data you used was transparent enough? Do you think that those who ought to, be beneficiaries were reached in this process? Because we've had a lot of people, criticisms about marginalization, people who are not supposed to. In fact, the fact that the whole exercise had been politicized.
Wow. You cannot serve everyone. Let me be frank with you. You cannot, the population of Nigeria and the Federal Capital Territory is estimated now, the existence of 6.3 million Nigerians. And then now, by projection, we have about 3 million uncaptured. That's about 9 million. Then how? And under this economy, we must also be mindful that Nigeria itself is bleeding, just like any other country. The economy, the world, the global strong economies are falling, because especially Nigeria that is dependent on, the crude oil. And now you can see that it is dropped. Our major source of revenue is dropped tremendously. Now, how do we say we want to serve the entire population? So you have to take an aggregate of those you think that we need. For many that were complaining, if you look at them, you can imagine somebody drive down in a car and he comes to complain, we've not been served palliative in our houses because they were not sensitized enough. So we have embarked on sensitization, and you can see that's what the beauty of AMAC is now.
Prof, I think it's your turn now to, to come in here. Can you, in your monitoring exercise, what have you found in terms of compliance,
In terms of compliance we cannot say is 100% effective. To some extent, for FCT, I can speak for FCT outrightly, because as the Honorable Minister mentioned, our staff are with them right from the onset, and they have been monitoring what is happening.
Your staff is with
them.
The palliative team?
They are there to monitor not only palliatives. Initially, it was lockdown enforcement. Then later, palliatives came up. So whatever was done in their eyes. They were there, they were vigilant.
Did they also follow them to the various
They were
areas?
the field. Because the monitoring team we established at the Code of Conduct Bureau was established to have a sort of field monitoring of activities. So in the area of activities, wherever there is any activity, our staff are always there.
So what have you found
ensure
out?
compliance.
Because we've seen a lot of pictures in the videos. What have members of your team
we
found
have
out?
also gotten those pictures. Why I said it wasn't 100% effective in terms of compliance, sometimes it's the issue of distancing.
It doesn't have to be 100%. If we get 50%, it's fair enough. But it's not even 50% the way...
No, that is the way the news that are trending in the social media. But the issue is how much people have been reached. And the organized way of reaching the vulnerables, that's what will determine the ability of every institution to now take its statistics rightly. So if there is no organized way of reaching the vulnerables, then you cannot have a statistic at all. And anything can come in, and anybody can bring in any information that may not be the true position of things.
Are there officials that are overreaching themselves in this process?
This is what will come in to prevent in terms of distribution of palliatives.
Have you seen? That's why you're monitoring.
That's why we are monitoring.
Have you apprehended people?
We are compiling our reports. If for now, at this stage, it's not a stage whereby we reveal out that we have apprehended this officer or that officer. But as I said earlier, if we have any impropriety, we observe any impropriety, we immediately report to the institution concerned. For now, as we are working...
How easy is it for you to do this? I know with the federal government, stimulus and palliative packages, those already have established templates and guidelines. But in some areas, we don't have. So how are you...
You see, as you're insisting we don't have guidelines, but you can't arrange or organize to reach out families in such a large number, in hundreds of thousands, without you putting yourself a sort of regulation, self-regulating process. You must have self-regulating process. By that self-regulating process, even though it is emergency situation, you know how many people you want, and you must have taken some statistics. The Honorable Minister has mentioned that this is community-based, and all the information about the vulnerables they get, those who are the vulnerables, the determinants, the information come from the community, not from the FCT office. So that's how they have been able to determine and identify who are the vulnerables, and they have been able to reach out to them. So we can't say that there is no regulation. As an institution...
Do you think that the eligibility process is without fault?
No, it can't be without fault.
Okay.
It can't be, no process is perfect.
Of course.
Indeed. So, as I said earlier, whatever fault, what we are trying to prevent in CCB, one is diversion of the palliatives.
Good.
We ensure that nothing that has been earmarked for a particular area and for particular people is diverted. Two, we ensure that there is no inflation of registration or of number of vulnerables, so that the officers can also benefit out of that. And we ensure that there is no partisan or discriminatory distribution in the process. So if we find any, at any stage, we now quickly run to the institution concerned, particularly the FCT in this case, and we report that. And they come in to see that how they put things in order. Yes.
Okay, Prof, let me take you. You've given me 3 focus areas. Diversion of what was earmarked, inflation of the number of vulnerable benefits,
yes.
And then the partisan or discriminatory. So with the issue of diversion of what was earmarked, what's your findings?
This we could not be able to establish any for now. Even though there are a number of complaints from different members of the community that this palliatives did not reach them, and it was said that there was distribution in their area. But the Honorable Minister made it very clear that they cannot cover everybody. What information they get, what data they have is what they use. So it may be that there may be 10, 20 vulnerables in an area, but they got information about 10 or 15. So if the remaining 5 or 10 did not get, they have a cause to complain. You understand that? So these are some of the things sometimes we need to verify if we have that information.
So what's the CCB's thoughts about the data that the FCT is using, the system? You know, she's giving us the system, the format, the strategy they're using to distribute, which I think it's quite thorough. But what does the CCB think with regards to your role, you know, as an anti-graft agency and a monitoring platform?
What we do earlier, as I said, we have to get an information of their plan of action, their program, how they are going to. They make it available to our staff.
They did make it available.
Yes, they did make it
That's
available.
That's what I'm saying. What do you think?
And that is what make our staff to be available at the field where the distribution is being made, always. So they are always there to have a fact-finding assessment. So they go there, assess what was actually happening and report back to us.
If people have complaints, can they report to your members?
Yes, they report to our members. We receive a lot of complaints.
Okay.
And our members reported to the institutions, and also they reported back to CCB.
Okay.
Now the issue is that these complaints, they are in stages. It's not every complaint now you take up for an inquiry. But a complaint, when it comes, now you go to the institution. If it is something that the institution can handle at its own level, it handles it. Then if a complaint comes and is beyond what the institution can do, or justice cannot be done at the end of the day to the aggrieved persons, then CCB can take it up with it and initiate an inquiry.
At the end of the day, what would you do with your findings?
At the end of the day, our findings, we put them together. And those that requires further investigation, we go ahead and open an investigation on them against the erring public officers. And those that require a sort of institutional attention, we draw the attention of the institution, maybe for the internal administrative disciplinary measures in that respective, in relation to that respective officer. So this monitoring is meant to assist and also support the effort of the institutions, the effort of the state governments, the effort of all other governments that come up with an initiative of this nature to make sure that there is that transparency and accountability in the process.
Okay, let me return to the Honorable Minister, because I'd like again for you to clarify the content of that bag, because it's very critical, and that's where the criticisms have come. A lot of people think that the councillors that you use, or members of those who are part of the distributing team, do some mago, I don't know, do shortchange the beneficiaries. Of course, when they get hold of these items, they divide the items into different parts, and then give maybe 1/3 of what is contained in the bag to the beneficiaries.
First and foremost, I would like to clear very well again that we do have 3 packs of semovita. That is 3 kg. 3 kg of rice, but it's together packed. 2 kg of beans. 1 liter of groundnut oil. We have sugar, salt. We have Maggi cubes, 20. We have 10 sachet of tomato paste. And we have the 1 liter of groundnut oil might not be in bottle. We have them in sachet. Okay. The power oil, that is 5 sachets.
Okay.
So this is the composition, and that gives you a total of about 11.5 grams. That was the much the bag company could assure us that we could stuff. FCT at Benicio had a target of 5 kg of everything. But having just 2 items already consumes the 10 kg bag. Again, in production of the bag, as I speak to you, they are still producing. I'm not done yet with the 600,000 if we are to use in 1. So if we are to do 2, and make it 5 kg all through and say, okay, 2, that's 30 kg. At the end of the day, there will not be enough bag to serve. So what we did then was also to stagger to ensure that if it's weekly or a little bit more, we'll be back to you to give you another one. And we also made it very clear. If you receive an open bag, that is not the FCT.
We see some people holding 2 bags.
The 2 bags now are one of rice 5 kg and the other of the condiment comprising of the items I mentioned. Then in some places you will see 2 bags of rice. Like an instance, somebody said they were giving people 2 bags, they gave her 1. So when we got there, we realized that there was a producer that brought less. By the time we were doing the stock taking and inventory, we realized and called him outrightly. So every 2 bag at his own loss doubles as 1 5 kg is 2.5. So not because you are shortchanged, but because that deserves to be matched. Secondly, we made it also very open and clear to people. Should you receive any item not worthy of consumption, we know our items, please return it. Besides, in each distribution, to the minutest, cranny in the Federal Capital Territory, there are people and officers that will be held to account. Who are the CCB people there in charge? Who is the ward councillor in charge? Who is the unit leader in charge? Where are the youths?
Have you investigated those videos and pictures on the social media?
Yes, we have been, and we've been on it. Until now, like there was one other one with a very, very rotten rights or something like that. We have been calling, Dr. Juma Amadu was on Radio FM. If indeed that person is in the Federal Capital Territory and can substantiate this, can prove these allegations, they should come up. 1, it will be substituted. 2, each bag, we have our own marks, will be identified and traced to the supplier.
I think it's a good place to talk about finance, because the impression there is that, all the states, have billions of money allocated to them for this particular, exercise. And the FCT is not an exception. What is the budgetary provision for this? Or is there a budgetary provision for this?
Why? Claire, you're going into administrative angle now, but then I'll take you clearly to it. I said it before during an interview that no one in this country would have been ready for this pandemic.
Of course.
So what became...
That's why it's an emergency.
That's why it's an emergency. And what you have to apply during emergencies is necessary process. So as necessary process now, we have to source directly the producers of the items required immediately. We went down because we don't even want the middle people, the middlemen to add more considering the volume. No contract was given to any National Assembly member or State Assembly member or politician.
Because we hear your staff, so some of your staff, the staff of the of the ministry are the suppliers.
No. Are there any ministry staff that are producers of rice? No way. What they mistake there is in each group there are committees. You are handling the rice suppliers. You are taking charge of the condiment suppliers. So there are lots of them like that. So when they see them interface with these people, ensure the delivery, they assume they are contracted. No.
Are they free donations?
No.
Okay.
We are not. It is purely FCT purchased. Again, taking you back to the administration, as you said, of fund. It might interest you to know that FCT is yet to receive. Unlike Lagos, where 10 billion, was given to cushion the effect, FCT is yet to receive any support, monetarily. But we know we have, put together our requirement, and soon the Honorable Minister, Alhaji Mohammed Bello, will be taking it to the President and the committee in charge. But for now, it is purely FCT matter. And as such, since we didn't have budgetary provision and we need necessary process, we embarked on this, engaging these companies who are also giving it to us, giving these materials to us on trust. We are credit worthy.
Okay.
And we have the CCB to also oversee what is being done there. Payments will be made later after details are done.
We've just ended, okay, we've started the easing up of lockdowns and all that. And this morning, a lot of people were out in the street. You should see some of the banks, you should see the roads are jammed, you know, the traffic is returned and all that. Honorable Minister, how are you hoping to enforce social distancing?
Honestly, if you look at
face mask, because most of the people, the taxi drivers are still plying with the usual number of 4 passengers at the back. Because I saw most of them this morning.
Thank you very much, Claire, for this observation. Practically, the social distancing rule became impossible to, implement this morning, and that also takes us to the issue of ease, on the lockdown. Maybe we aren't actually ready for this. Maybe it shouldn't come now. And the FCT administration quickly sat and we issued a press statement. Suddenly you experience, even though might be campaign after election, will I call it so as a politician, the gates of the FCT entrance will be shut.
They're not shut.
They will be, I'm trying to tell you, because there was a presidential, pronouncement, and Nigerians, that takes precedence. But now again, we are willing to take responsibility. With what we saw in the banks, on the roads, it took me over an hour to move from Gwarimpa to this station to do this today. The lockjam, no one is even listening to anyone. A meeting, whatever it is, the fluids they have. The space is so tight. I was imagining how many bed spaces we have. I started imagining how ready are we with the isolation centers. With what we saw today, if in the next 2 weeks, should there be a spread, God forbid, in that place, and then we think of the incubation period and the spread, honestly speaking, the center cannot hold. So on this note, we have put together a committee. This strong committee, we sat with all service chiefs, the Honorable Minister, Alhaji Mohammed Bello, invite them. We sat with them as a team, management team of the Federal Capital Territory, and we cried out to them. Now all of them together, the Air Force, the Navy, the Army, all the forces, we have the civil defense, the police, we have this infrared camps, tents we will use. And then these lead tents will be mounted across all where we have. We know FCT is almost the center, of Nigeria. It is very wide and porous. So these areas must be blocked. We need huge numbers and not wanting anybody below the level of colonel, especially if compromises will come. I think at that level, no officer will go down to collect any bribe.
Okay, Prof, with regards to achieving a transparent and accountable exercise, how do you think we can do that with the remaining, because I know there are quite some areas left to be done. Generally, how can we achieve a seamless distribution of palliatives?
This is achievable to some extent, in the sense that our officers that are out there, they always try to collaborate with the leadership of institutions that are out to distribute palliatives. And as I said that once we have an organized way of distributing that palliatives, what we do is to ensure that there is strict compliance with the process. And that strict compliance will now aid the transparency and accountability in it. Sometimes, as the Honorable Minister stated, we may not know the content, but if that information is made available to us, now we will make sure that the content is intact.
Okay.
The content is intact. But the problem is the cooperation of the vulnerables and the poor people that are to enjoy the palliatives. Sometimes they are disorderly in nature. And maybe you must have seen some videos that have trended in this respect, where in some areas you find people are too rowdy that the bags of the palliatives are being thrown out to them. And they were fighting on that. Who will seize that? Who will seize what from who?
So just your final message with regards to conduct of people of the beneficiaries of these rations.
This is put in place for the benefit of the vulnerables and poor. And therefore, with the crisis at hand, we need to observe the rules in relation to COVID-19 pandemic. And these rules are social distancing, as well as also working in an organized manner. As those that are out to distribute, they have their own statistic and information of those that they want to reach. So anybody that is part of those that are going to be reached will be reached.
And what awaits officials who violate the rules?
The officials that violate the rules, as we said, we are collating our reports. And we are working with institutions responsible, and also what can be corrected at a point in time, we get it corrected.
Yes, but what will be the repercussion for them?
The repercussion that for those that are liable, that reach an investigative stage. When we investigate and we find you wanting, then the next thing is to prosecute.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Professor Mohammed Issa, Chairman, Code of Conduct Bureau, and of course, who is spearheading the committee on COVID, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 palliatives. Thank you very much for joining me on Late Edition. Dr. Ramatu Tijani Aliyu, as always, on top of your game, Honorable Minister of State for FCT, many thanks to you for coming to clarify some of these issues and, of course, giving us your own experience. Thank you very much. And that's it again on Late Edition this week. We've looked at, of course, reviewed the palliative distribution, especially here in the FCT. And I want to thank my two guests who have come with me. On behalf of my production crew, bye-bye.